But the problem, I just like to know when this policy is just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine. He says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's, can we hear us now? Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like sanctions, so like we have right now?
Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential candidate from 2019.
So
naive. The media doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
you give up Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up Ukraine.
I respectfully, we can respectfully. Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about here.
Okay, folks. So after the GOP debate, I guess Vivek Ramaswamy went on Fox and Friends, and to put it pretty bluntly, Brian Kilmeade, who's the guy you see here on your right, had an absolute meltdown at Vivek and his position on Ukraine. And when I say meltdown, I mean meltdown. The guy was outright screaming. It was unhinged. Even the other hosts on Fox and Friends looked visibly uncomfortable. It was sad to watch. And with that said, I did think Vivek Ramaswamy handled it pretty well and put this guy's neocon thinking into his own place. And it was frankly satisfying by the very end. But, let me say, listen, I never grew up watching Fox News. I'm not that conservative kid where, my dad had it on all the time. I don't have that story, okay? So I'm not super familiar with Brian. I'm sure he's a good guy, but I will say all I've really seen from him as of late is he got totally pissed because the GOP was saying that Kevin McCarthy was not a good speaker, and he was just enraged. How dare you not stand up for Kevin McCarthy? And then now here he is saying, how dare you want a reasonable peace solution in Ukraine? So I don't know, but we're going to react to it here today, and I got plenty to say, so don't worry. But before we start reacting to this clip, I do want to tell you about our friends and sponsors today over at Noble Gold. Folks, it's never been a better time to start investing, and a great way to begin is with precious metals like gold and silver. These are safe, stable, time-tested assets, and our friends at Noble Gold Investments, especially if you're brand new to this world, can help you start. And they got a lot of options for you. Whether you want to just, buy some gold, or you want to convert an existing retirement account into a gold IRA, which you can actually do for no tax penalty, our friends at Noble Gold can help. They are one-on-one. We'll walk you through the process. So if you're at all curious, use my affiliate link at thevincedao.com. Again, that is check out thevincedao.com. Support Noble Gold Investments. Great friend of the program. Be sure to do so at thevincedao.com. All right, with that said, let's just get into this, and then I'll talk about it.
But the problem, I just like to know when this policy is just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine. He says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's...
Okay, just right off the gate, because I want to clarify the context. That is not Vivek Ramaswamy's position. Because I've heard him say this, we've reacted to it on this channel many times. His position is, let's do a peace deal where we will freeze the current lines of control. He never said give the whole country of Ukraine to Russia. It says freeze the current lines of control, and in exchange, Russia cannot join or go into an alliance with China. Okay? To which I think that's actually a very good deal. And I know the neocons respond by saying, so you want to appease Putin? You want to hand Ukraine to Putin? And it's like, I mean, let's be realistic about what's going to happen anyway, right? Despite all the Western propaganda, which, by the way, even a lot of Western news sources are now admitting, hey, Ukraine is starting to lose the war. They're running out of gas. They're running out of manpower. But be realistic about it. Do you really think the war is going to end with Ukraine unconditionally driving Russia all the way back out of Crimea? That's not going to happen. Okay, realistically, this is going to happen anyway. Why not give Ukraine and the United States something good out of it especially for the U.S., which is back out of the alliance with China. So just want to clarify that, this position gets straw man so much. He's saying he wants to do a peace deal to end the bloodshed, end the fighting, and by the way, do something that is very beneficial for the U.S. because Russia and China, teaming up is far more dangerous to the U.S. and the global order, whatever you want to say, than, Russia taking a few provinces of Ukraine and annexing them. That's just reality. Okay, here's the interview.
Can we hear us now? Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like
for
sanctions,
so
like we have right now?
Well, look, I think that we have to be able to have real consequences, maximum pressure campaign. We have sanctions. We don't have a maximum pressure campaign. And I can go into the details of that, and I have at the Nixon Library and elsewhere. But what I'm saying, Brian, is the clear principles are this war doesn't advance U.S. interests.
Yes, it does.
Russia-China alliance is the top threat that we face.
If you give up Eastern Europe, we'll be in a world war.
If I may ask you a question,
right.
You asked the question, I want to make sure I answer it.
I'm just going to answer you. It is in our interest.
Detailed contours of a deal. I think it is not in our interest to strengthen the Russia-China alliance, and I think our policy right now is driving Russia further into China's arms.
It's going to be done anyway. You cannot keep Russia from China.
I think Russia is
totally false. Completely false. And this is another line that the neocons use. They say, well, Russia and China are both dictatorships, so they were always going to team up. And the idea that could have been stopped is ridiculous. So who cares that we made it happen? That's not true at all. The truth of the matter, actually, is that Russia and China are not the natural allies that, again, the neocons tell you that they are. Because even if you want to go back to the Soviet Union days, because that's the cliches they always want to use, even going back to the Soviet Union, when they were both officially communist countries, they still did not get along. Even sharing the same ideology, the same common enemy, they still had border disputes. They still, in fact, at various times throughout the Cold War, those border disputes ended with actual fighting. It was minor fighting, but the point is these countries did not get along even historically. They are not natural allies. They're natural rivals. It's always been that way. And the reason Russia is now pushing into China's arms is because we have pushed them there. We have isolated them. Russia has nowhere else to go. They're kind of desperate. And so where are they going to turn? Naturally, China. With that said, there's a natural distrust there at the same time. There's a reason why Putin, throughout the years, he did not just run right into Russia's arms. He kept the door open to the West at many different points. He actually tried to join NATO at one point. Not a lot of people talk about that. He wanted to be a Western country. Most of Russia, the population center, is centered in the West. Before the Soviet Union, they were seen as a Western country generally. They're kind of a European empire, a European power. And we've again pushed them there. Okay? We've pushed them there. So it's not a natural alliance. It's never been the case. They don't get along. They don't really trust each other. But yes, when you isolate them, like we have, and I've long made the argument, actually, why don't we use Russia, if not as an ally, at least kind of a mutual hedge against China? We could have gone in that direction. We should have gone in that direction. We still can. But, these people sell you the line that, like, Russia and China are great friends and have always gotten along. Open a history book, idiot. Seriously. It's not true. It's never been true. It's a lie. Anyways.
I think the answer is we are driving Russia into China's hands.
Exactly.
There are kinks in the armor of that relationship. Look at Russia sending weapons to India and to Vietnam after other meetings they've had. This is our opportunity. Nixon.
I never even, knew about that or thought about that. But there's another great point. Okay, India and Vietnam are 100% adversaries of China. Russia has sent them arms. You know what that shows? It's a complicated, strained relationship at best. We can break that. We should break that. That's a way greater threat to the world than anything going on in Ukraine. But again, these neocons lie about it. They just sell you these cliches, whether it's Russia and China are natural friends because communism or something. Not even true, even back in the Soviet days. Or World War II. It's just like none of what they say is intelligent. They sell you cliches. They expect you to fall for them. You shouldn't fall for them because you're smarter than that. That's the truth.
Did this in 1972, and Brian, respectfully, people like you said the same thing, that Nixon couldn't do it. Well, it takes an outsider who's skeptical of that establishment. That's going to be me.
I was 7 years old.
But we can both, you and I are both students of history, and I trust you to know that.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of
strongman position.
And all we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion. So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you see how they fight? These guys are the best fighters in the world.
And I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world.
Ukraine is not some democracy.
Ukraine is fighting for their sovereignty.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world? Really, Brian? Don't get me wrong, the Russian army has not demonstrated a high degree of competence in this invasion. That's true. But, okay, if they're the best fighters in the world, why do they need our help so much? What are you talking? They're the best fighters in the world. What is this guy talking about? Well, okay, then why don't we just have Ukrainian mercenaries fill our whole army? It's like, everyone knows of Ukraine, best military ever in his... What? All right, anyways, it's kind of a footnote point, but what is he talking? What is he even saying? He's just screaming at the camera.
Well,
and they were invaded.
The news
they
media has
invaded.
Reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential
candidate
from 2019.
It just makes you sound so naive.
The media doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
you just give up Ukraine and then...
Says the guy who said Ukrainians have the best fighters in the world. Okay.
You should be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up Ukraine.
We can respectfully, Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about.
Really?
Nixon did this in 72. We can actually split up the Russia-China alliance
and what
advance
happened,
American interests
I think
and protect
World War II is your better example.
I think it is offensive.
World War II is your better example. One is a diplomatic approach and one is an active war.
Germany. All right. If you could have split up Japan and Germany.
Look how uncomfortable the other Fox and Friends hosts are. And by the way, this is another thing they always do. World War II. If any country annexes a part of another country or does something, it's literally Hitler taking Poland. It's like, no, not everything is World War II. You're just saying words, okay? But look, even the girl is like, okay, uncomfortable, visibly. Because Brian just came in this immediately and is screaming, and he really doesn't know what he's talking about.
Then I do think that you actually have a good example of World War II.
You were going to convince Hitler not to go with a fascist nation?
And I'm not talking about convincing anybody, Brian, but the fact of the matter is I think it is offensive that people would sooner use $200 billion of our resources to protect some other nation's foreign border that's not a democracy, when in fact we're not even doing that effectively.
You can do both. It's not either or.
We're doing neither.
It's not either or.
And that's the fact of the matter. And I think this neocon wisdom needs to be relegated to the
forget neocon wisdom. No one buys into that. Just give up Eastern Europe. Just give up Eastern Europe. Why not?
In Afghanistan, look at those results. The same people.
Okay, if you want to do the straw man thing, Brian, then how about just start World War III? How about that? Just make Russia and China fuse into the greatest alliance ever. How about that? In fact, do you want to play that game? Or do you want to listen to what he's saying?
What you could say Iraq and Afghanistan are trying to do this again in Ukraine, and it's already been a disaster. Time for the neocons
not
to admit
one
it
soldier is there. Not one American soldier is there.
Something they have done. Well, Lloyd Austin just threatened earlier this week that we are going to send our troops unless we pass that aid package, actually. So, Brian, you mark my words. Listen to Lloyd Austin, who's advancing the same policies as Nikki Haley.
He's saying he's going to send troops if they move into a NATO nation.
Look how uncomfortable they are.
Not to Ukraine. Pay attention.
He expressly said that it's going to require sending troops if we don't actually pass
we have to
the
go.
Ukraine aid.
He said if they take a NATO nation.
Boneheaded foreign policy. And I think that the hard answer is that we need to protect Americans. That's the answer.
Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you.
I mean, let's be honest. It seemed to me that they were cutting him off Not even necessarily because, oh, Ramaswamy speaking facts, but to me, it seems like Fox was thinking, wow, our anchor here is really having a meltdown. This is a disgrace to TV. We just can't have this. Because, you know, they could say it's commercial break. I don't know. I didn't watch the show, but that appears to be what was really happening there. And yeah. Again, just a sad performance. I mean, we can talk about the substance of what Brian is saying. It's hard to, because there wasn't really a lot of substance to what he's saying. You know, he's just throwing out the same cliches or misrepresentations or talking points of World War II. You want to give all of Europe to Putin, you know? So it's hard to really argue with that because there's nothing there. Like, you're not really saying anything, okay? But even all that stuff aside, even if you do disagree with Vivek on this stuff, what was that? Like, why were you so angry about it? I don't understand. And it's very interesting because I think when you consider most of the issues that truly make Americans with their priorities in order, that truly make them angry about politics, which does sometimes happen, you would think it would at least be an issue over domestic stuff, right? You're mad about something in the culture war. You're mad about transing the kids. You're mad about abortion. You're mad even about, I don't know, taxes, at least something domestic. To get that passionately angry about foreign policy of all things, you know, usually I thought one of the issues it's easiest to have a good faith discussion about because it's, you know, it's foreign policy. It's kind of boring. It's kind of nerdy. It's far away. But that actually demonstrates to the neocons what their most important priority is, right? Do you think Brian Kilmeade gets this mad when crazy stuff happens here at home, culturally, politically, whatever? He'll talk about it. He'll say what he thinks. But would he go screaming at them like this? Absolutely not. But with foreign policy, again, because that's what the neocons view as most important, the things that happen far, far away in other countries. The guy is acting like you just blasphemed or something, or you insulted his family. I mean, that was insane. And it was kind of funny to see how uncomfortable even his colleagues were on that show. They're like, all right, come on, man. All right, you know? And especially, it's like the interview didn't even escalate. It's not, oh, you started off with a question and then it got hot. No, Brian just came in immediately just yelling at the guy. Oh, so that was entertaining. But it was sad for Brian. Again, not super familiar with the guy. I know who he is. I'm not a Fox and Friends viewer or anything. But do better. Do better, seriously. But good job to Vivek for handling the situation, obviously. But all right, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to check out our friends at Noble Gold using the link at thevincedao.com. And until next time, like and subscribe. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.